stretch of this only Democratic debate in the final week before the primary. Let me start with you, Secretary Clinton, on this question. Obviously, President Obama got a lot of ambitious stuff done in his first year and a half. You're going to have to make choices, and there's a lot of heavy lifts, and he made choices. He did health care, and it came at the expense, arguably, of immigration reform. Had he put immigration reform first, perhaps that gets done, and health care doesn't. So there's three big lifts that you've talked about: immigration, gun reform, climate change. What do you do first? Because you know the first one is the one you have the best shot at getting done.
Well, I don't accept that premise, Chuck. I think that we've got so much business we have to do. We've talked a lot tonight about what we're against. We're against income inequality. We're against the abuses of powerful interests. We're against a lot of things. I'm for a lot of things. I don't want to just stop bad things from happening. I want to start good things from happening. And I believe if I'm so fortunate as to get the nomination, I will begin to work immediately on putting together an agenda, beginning to talk with members of Congress and others about how we can push forward. I want to have 500 million more solar panels deployed the first 4 years. I want to have enough clean energy to power every home the next 4 years. I want us to keep working on the Affordable Care Act to get not only to 100% coverage, but bring down the cost of prescription drugs and out-of-pocket costs. I want to move forward on paid family leave, on early childhood education. I want us to do more for small businesses. Small businesses have to create most of the jobs, and we're not creating and growing small businesses. I think if you have a smart agenda, you pick the committees that you know have to begin to work on these various pieces, because that's the way Congress is set up. You go through different committees, and you really make a big push in the beginning. Immigration reform, economic revitalization with manufacturing, with infrastructure. We put it out there, and we begin to work on an ambitious, big, bold agenda that will actually produce the results that I want to see for our country.
All right, but Senator Sanders, you still got to do something first. As you know, history shows what you pick first is your best shot at getting, and how you prioritize things. Immigration reform, for instance, fell by the wayside in the first term because of this.
I am absolutely supportive of comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship for 11 million people today who are living in the shadows. All right, we got to do that. But you missed, when you looked at the issues, you missed two of the most important. And that is, you're not going to accomplish what has to be done for working families and the middle class unless there is campaign finance reform. So long as big money interests control the United States Congress, it is going to be very hard to do what has to be done for working families. So let me be very clear. No nominee of mine, if I am elected president, to the United States Supreme Court will get that nomination unless he or she is loud and clear and says they will vote to overturn Citizens United. Second point is that the only way we make change in terms of health care, in terms of dealing with a broken criminal justice system, which today allows us to have more people in jail than any other country, largely African American and Latino. The only way we create millions of jobs by rebuilding our infrastructure or have a tax system that says to the wealthy that they are going to pay their fair share is when millions of people become involved in the political process. No, you just can't negotiate with Mitch McConnell. Mitch is going to have to look out the window and see a whole lot of people saying, Mitch, stop representing the billionaire class, start listening to working families. And as president, that's what I will work hard on.
Okay, thank you. Rachel?
Secretary Clinton, Republicans, particularly in campaign years, often talk about which departments of government, which agencies of government they would get rid of if they were elected president. The EPA, the Department of Education, the Commerce Department, oops. Is there a department of government that you would get rid of? Or is there a whole new one that you would create?
The answer to both of those is no. I'm interested in making what we have work better. I want to streamline programs that are duplicative and redundant. I want to have a top-to-bottom review about what works and what doesn't work and be absolutely clear we're getting rid of what doesn't work. I have had the opportunity to run a big agency. I was very flattered when Henry Kissinger said I ran the State Department better than anybody had run it in a long time. So I have an idea about what it's going to take to make our government work more efficiently. And when you put together a budget, you have to make a lot of hard decisions. But I think it's not appropriate to say, oh, I'm going to get rid of this, get rid of that, until you have a very good process that gives you the information about what to do. But I want to add something else, because, look, we have so much work to do in our country, and I think it's the greatest work that Americans will be called to do. And of course, we have to have people in every community involved in it. We have to have the political voice, the political grassroots speaking up and speaking out about what we have to try to accomplish in Washington. But we also need to have a very clear set of goals that we are going to achieve. And we need to level with the American people about what they are, what they will cost, what will be expected of our citizenry. So I see, as president, having a constant dialogue with Americans. Here's what we're trying to get done. Here's why I need your help. Here's why you may think comprehensive immigration reform with a path to citizenship isn't something you care about, but I'm telling you, it will help fix the labor market. It will bring people out of the shadows. It will actually raise wages. You have to make all those connections so that you've got people with you every step of the way. That's what I want to do.
Thank you.
All right, before we go, I want to ask each one of these. Secretary Clinton, you've made it clear that when you look at Senator Sanders, you do not see a president. But do you see a vice president?
Look,
would you unite the party by trying to pick Senator Sanders as your running mate?
well, I'm certainly going to unite the party, but I'm not getting ahead of myself. I think that would be a little bit presumptuous. If I'm so fortunate as to be the nominee, first person I will call to talk to about where we go and how we get it done will be Senator Sanders.
Senator, would you consider the secretary?
I agree with what the secretary said. We shouldn't be getting ahead of ourselves. And as I have said many times, sometimes in these campaigns, things get a little bit out of hand. I happen to respect the secretary very much. I hope it's mutual. On our worst days, I think it is fair to say we are 100 times better than any Republican candidate for president. You all right with that?
That's true.
Closing statement? You're ready for closing? Go ahead. Secretary Clinton, closing statements, you are first.
Well, first, thanks to MSNBC and thanks to all of you for holding this debate before the New Hampshire primary. I am going to campaign as hard as I can between now and Tuesday to earn your votes in that primary. And I hear some talk that people are trying to decide, do they vote with their heart, do they vote with their head? I'm asking you to bring both your heart and your head to vote with you on Tuesday because we have a lot of work that can only come because your heart is moved. We didn't get to talk about the continuing struggles that Americans face with racism, with sexism, with discrimination against the LGBT community, with new Americans, with people with disabilities. Yes, we have income inequality. We have other forms of inequality that we need to stand up against and absolutely diminish from our society. So I have been moved by my heart ever since I was a young woman, about the age of a lot of Senator Sanders supporters, worrying about what I could do to make a difference for my country. And I will bring that heart with me, but I will also tell you, we've got to get our heads together to come up with the best answers to solve the problems so that people can have real differences in their lives that will make them better for now and into the future.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Go ahead, Senator Sanders.
My dad came to this country at the age of 17 from Poland. I didn't have any money, couldn't speak English. He died pretty young, and I think it would have been beyond his wildest dreams to see his son up here on the stage today running for president. I love this country, and my dad loved this country, and he was the most proud American because of what it gave him in terms of raising his family, even though we never had much money. But today in America, we are the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all people, that doesn't guarantee paid family and medical leave. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. We are seeing millions of families unable to send their kids to college in the United States of America. I'm running for president because I believe it is just too late for establishment politics and establishment economics. I do believe we need a political revolution where millions of people stand up and say loudly and clearly that our government belongs to all of us and not just a handful of wealthy campaign contributors. Thank you all.
Well, there you have it. I promise you, Rachel and I have a lot more questions, but we just don't have any more time. Unless we could convince them to do a third hour, but I don't think so. Our debate coverage, post-debate coverage, will continue in just a moment with our colleague Chris Matthews, but we want to thank all of you for being here, and we want to thank the two candidates for taking part in this important event.
We also want to thank our host, the University of New Hampshire, and the people of New Hampshire. You guys get to vote in just 5 days. We can't wait to see how it turns out. Don't screw it up.
We'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews, and we've been watching it. I think it's an extraordinary night in American politics. The first and only one-on-one debate between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders leading up to the New Hampshire primary next Tuesday night. Well, the results will be next Tuesday night. At times tonight, it got heated, of course.